So in this video we're going to talk about the release, and more precisely the reason why you can't release, and probably the reason why maybe you never will unless you make these changes. Let's get stuck into it. Well, let's make sure that we understand exactly what I mean by the release. The release is this part of the golf swing here. Okay, so when we look at a professional golfer, we will generally see very similar position where at this point in time, so roughly when my lead arm is kind of horizontal to the floor, we look like so. See the way my right hand is rolled over the left, and it just looks nice and athletic. What we tend to see with most amateur golfers is something that looks a little bit more this way. Now, the problem is, what I tend to see with a lot of people, again, that I meet, that either come through this door or reach out for help online, is they've experienced trying to force a release. So they've tried to genuinely roll the right hand over the left for a right-handed golfer, and surprise, surprise, it lends itself to huge inconsistency where the ball will fly off towards the left-hand side. So what you need to do is you need to understand why a golfer looks this way, and it's not necessarily going to come from doing that. So let's do a couple of swings right hand only, and let's start in this through swing position. So we can see the way that my arm is rolled over. If I slowly bring it back in towards this impact position, this is how it's going to look, and then if I slowly wind it back to here, it ends up looking this sort of way. So the key thing here is that we need width. So you need to make sure in the backswing position that your upper arm doesn't get too close to your lower arm. Okay, so if this angle gets too much this way, then you are going to get stuck. What we need to do is we need to make sure this angle is at 90 degrees. See, from this position now, what can happen is I can consciously allow that to widen and allow this to move closer towards the side of me. See, that motion there is that sort of throwing sensation. And if I can allow this type of motion to happen here, then I'm going to have a very good chance of being here. If I end up in a position where this is too close, and then I get a little stuck, so I end up either kind of doing this, where the upper arm ends up moving away with the cast, or I pull down, I get stuck, this is the reason why you are going to struggle fundamentally with that sort of release. So the first thing that you want to check, and I would say 7, 8 out of 10 golfers struggle very much with a lack of width in the backswing where the hands are too close. So make sure that your hands are further away from you. Try and get the feeling that your right arm is a lot straighter in the backswing position, because that would be the fundamental reason why you're struggling with the release. Second reason would be rotation. Okay, so if I'm theoretically doing what I said here and I'm allowing this to straighten, obviously I need to kind of keep my body moving. So if my chest and lower body, pelvis area keep rotating towards the target, it keeps the shoulder moving, which means it can keep the arm from moving. So it's no good just obviously doing this on its own. I need to move the shoulder, which is going to come from rotation. Now, a lot of golfers understand that. They understand rotation. The thing that they lose sight of is the functionality of the lead leg. So what you need to do is you need to make sure the upper part of your lead leg in the downswing is rotating towards the target. It needs to move in the direction towards the target so that you can keep rotating freely. You only have to imagine doing something like sort of skimming a stone or throwing a ball. That's what you would do. You would naturally sort of step in that direction and then throw and move in that direction. You wouldn't kind of do this. Now, a lot of golfers that I meet that can't rotate through the ball is because they don't understand the lead leg movement. What they do is they kind of end up sort of trying to straighten their leg consciously like this, and all it does is it sort of pushes you back. You don't want to do that. You want to turn this lead leg out ever so slightly, and as you start the downswing, you want to let it flex like so. Now, as you keep turning like so, it'll straighten. Okay, so if I show you from this perspective, if I keep turning, because my hip's moving back through the rotation, this leg straightens up. So you don't need to consciously think about straightening the leg, it's an inevitability. But what you might have to do is consciously think about keeping it flexed, and also think about the upper part of the lead leg facing towards the target. So if you've got good width here, you've got good functionality here, then we're pretty close to getting. Last one would just be speed. So if there is not enough speed going through, then there's going to be no rollover. So what we tend to see with the pros, and I'll do it left hand only for a moment, is they will swing back, but as they start the downswing, there is a lot of rotation very early. So there's a lot of lower body rotation and a lot of chest rotation at the start of the downswing. But then that slows down, and then the energy kind of goes through to the hands and arms. So the reason why pros look this way, particularly on full shots, is because the arm is moving faster than the chest. The reason why pros don't look this way on shorter shots is because the chest is working at a similar rate of rotation as the arm. So if you are somebody who ends up sort of finishing kind of, I don't know, something like this, then there's actually quite a strong possibility that you've made a mistake on step 1 and 2, but there's also a possibility that there's just not enough speed going through. So if you want to combat that problem, then here's a good drill. This is a very good Dr. Kwon inspired exercise. So those of you who aren't familiar, it's worth checking out his YouTube channel. I was actually introduced to this concept quite a few years ago by a guy called John Shipp, who was a sort of personal training background as well. And at that time, I thought it was very clever and very easy. If you got yourself just a bit of rope, roughly the diameter of a golf club, about a couple of feet in length, it would be a really good training aid. The idea is that in the backswing position, you just want to allow it to fall on your back. So yeah, you'll have to allow the lead arm to bend a little bit. But what you're then trying to do is make a very big effort to turn. So it's this type of motion here, and then propel it off. So it back, through, back, through. And obviously the faster you turn your chest, the faster that you're going to propel your lead arm, and the faster that this is going to swoosh through. It's a good exercise. It's definitely worth trying. If you can't release, those are the common reasons as to why. It's not necessarily anything that the club face is too open in the downswing, which makes you flip it. It's nothing like that. That's just not true. What it is either a lack of width, either a lack of rotation, or a lack of general sort of speed that's going through the swing. Give each of those a try the drills and the exercises, and let me know, and I'll see you soon.